So, folks, there's, this whole thing going on right now with the economy. Now, part of that is being driven right now by, well, a massive campaign within the federal government to basically purge entire departments that employ, the bulk of America's workforce. The single largest employer in America is the federal government. And, well, we have, of course, Elon Musk saving us all kinds of money by slashing jobs and, making America great again. And as you can see here from this graph, all of Elon Musk's slashing of spending has actually ballooned the budget by $154 billion. So that's great. That's really great. Obviously, the economy must be really benefiting, and jobs must, all of these people being fired from their research jobs and from their forestry positions and from their bureaucratic jobs. They all must be entering the workforce anew and finding jobs at all the factories. Am I right, guys? Right? Clearly, that would have positive effects for everyone when it comes to the economy. Oh, tariff trouble. Trump's approvals tank in new poll. Oh, conducted April 4th through April 9th, the UMass poll shows that 44% of respondents gave a thumbs up to the Republican after just 3 months in office, compared to 51% who disapprove. More people are now disapproving than approving of the Trump administration, especially when it comes to trade. That's Well, I mean, let's just how bad was it when it came to the economy? One issue that's supposed to be Trump's wheelhouse, the economy, is his most significant liability in the new poll. That doesn't sound like his plan is working, does it? Nearly 2/3 of respondents, 62%, said they don't think Trump is handling inflation well, while nearly 6 in 10, 58%, said he was mishandling trade policy, according to the poll. Barely half, 53%, said the same thing about jobs. So that is a meaningful shift on one of the policy positions that he is supposed to be strongest on. He lost 9 points in net approval rating in a single week. Yet he lost 10% of his entire support. God. And, well, you might be saying, well, I mean, didn't I just hear like a day ago that like Donald Trump lifted like all the tariffs, and now all the tariffs are 10%, and he even, the tariffs on China are 145%, but like he exempted all of the smartphones and computers and microchips and such, right? Clearly that's gonna mean that the government's okay, right? Like the economy is gonna be doing great because of all of those exemptions to high tech stuff, right?
So you're saying that the big tariffs on things like smartphones and laptops, iPhones, all those iPhones built in China, that those tariffs are temporarily off, but they're going to be coming right back on in another form in a month or so? Or what are you saying?
Correct. That's right. That's right. Semiconductors and pharmaceuticals will have a tariff model in order to encourage them to reshore, to be built in America. We need our medicines and we need semiconductors and our electronics to be built in America. We can't be beholden and rely upon foreign countries for fundamental things that we need. We can't be relying on China for fundamental things that we need. Our medicines and our semiconductors need to be built in America. Donald Trump is on it. He's calling that out. So you should understand these are included in the semiconductor tariffs that are coming and the pharmaceuticals are coming. Those two areas are coming in the next month or two. So this is not like a permanent sort of exemption. He's just clarifying that these are not available to be negotiated away by countries. These are things that are national security that we need to be made in America.
The president's made it clear.
So that is a big way of saying, actually, no. The no, the exemptions are not real.
Have some Bezos bucks.
Simric D, thank you for the Prime sub, and Freedom Evie, thank you for the gifted sub to Van Briggs. Yeah, all of those exemptions aren't real, and they're actually going to come back. And not only are they going to come back, but we are going to also tariff semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. And I just need to really emphasize for you guys here that, like, there is no infrastructure in the United States to mass manufacture medicine. We do not have that infrastructure. It is all built overseas. All of the components are sourced overseas. So even if you do build the manufacturing apparatuses here, importing the materials to then make the medicines here is still going to be subject to the tariffs. Right? So either way, yeah, y'all are about to see like $150 aspirin. That is unironically like the kind of thing we're looking at here. And your iPhone is still going to get more expensive. What you've seen over like the last week is essentially, you know, the Trump administration coming out every single day and saying something new that causes the markets to go into chaos. And it has in turn like caused what is like rapidly seeming to become the bond crisis, which is basically, folks, people buy, you know, U.S. bonds. And those are basically an agreement where someone loans the U.S. government money and the U.S. government says, we'll pay you back in 10 years with a very, very small amount of interest. Because it's so small because we are so stable. You have the good faith and security of the U.S. government to ensure that you get that return. And because of all of the chaos, that has lowered the international finance community's trust in the U.S. government. And that trust translates to them dumping U.S. bonds, which in turn means that the dollar is losing strength internationally against other currencies. It is not good. All I'm saying here is that this problem is going to continue. And let's just take a quick look here. Here's the USA Today. Trump administration is getting ready to impose tariffs on semiconductors and pharmaceuticals. And the global trading order is still adjusting to a series of levies Trump has instituted. And, actually, this is all being done in the name of national security. And basically, the entire thought process here was that, as far as I can understand it, by the people in Trump's orbit who understand how economic things work in general, is that in a time of decreased stability in the market, typically what happens is that people take their money out of the general market and then they buy US bonds, which increases, you know, the confidence in the US government, increases the power of the dollar, etc. And that is now not happening despite the chaos in the markets. And that's really bad. And I do not really have the capacity as someone who is not an economist to describe to you how bad that is. I would recommend you all go check out Nathan Tankis's piece on it that he published earlier today, I believe. It's very, very good.
National security, the age-old cry of the oppressor. Jean-Luc Picard.
Indeed. But that brings us to basically a better summary of what's going on here, presented to us by Elizabeth Warren, who I think it kind of hits the nail on the head here. Let's take this.
Just heard from Secretary of Commerce Lutnick. We had this exemption on all electronics, and he said that the reason is because they're going to impose new tariffs in the coming months. What do you sense? What's going on here?
Look, there is no tariff policy. It's just all chaos and corruption.
Like, boom. Boom. That's it. That is all that is happening. It is chaos because they think they have some good idea, or they think they can do something, or they're doing insider trading, or maybe all of the above. There is no coherent policy, which is why no one in the administration can give a straight answer about what is happening, why it's happening, how it will actually benefit people. They cannot come up with it because Donald Trump is a mad, rabid dog. He is just chasing cars, frothing at the mouth because of the aforementioned rabies. It is just insanity. And it is not doing any of us outside of the administration any favors. It might be doing favors to people inside the administration who are getting tipped off by what the president's going to do in private meetings, but it's not doing any of us on the outside here any favors whatsoever. Okay?
That's all we have going on. And how can you believe any of these guys? What did Donald Trump tweet out all in caps? I will not back down. How many hours was that? 24 hours, 30 hours before he turned around and backed down. They talk about an emergency. They've got a 10% tariff on basically every country in the world.
And I need to really emphasize here, a 10% tariff on a country is huge. Huge. Just a blanket tariff is not something that helps anybody.
Everywhere. What's the emergency that we have with Belgium or the emergency we have with South Korea? So, look, these guys are into chaos and into corruption. And this is the reason that it is time for Congress to step up and to say, under the authority that the president is currently using by declaring these national emergencies, no. The law says specifically Congress can just say there's no national emergency across the board here and revoke that authority from the president. That will mean we can go back to having actually a real tariff policy. Congress will have its position in place, and then we can negotiate where we need to negotiate. But we got to stop this craziness.
I understand. Just heard.
It is insane. The latest I have heard is that China is now blocking exports of rare earth metals and magnets and such that are necessary for building higher tech components of anything. And that is going to wreak havoc on the world. Like it is, or at least in US markets, rather. So it is, this is not a policy that can last. It is not politically feasible. It is not economically feasible. And one thing I really want to emphasize here is that, we're continuing to see people begin to understand the implications of what a tariff is, right? What tariffs do. Small businesses sue Trump administration over authority to impose tariffs. A group of U.S. businesses filed a lawsuit Monday arguing that Donald Trump's tariff powers are illegal under the International Emergencies Economic Powers Act. The suit was filed in the U.S. Court of International Trade by the Liberty Justice Center, a legal advocacy group arguing on behalf of 5 businesses that have been severely harmed by the tariffs. So let me just take a look here. Liberty Justice Center. This is a different organization than the Koch brother-backed org that was already suing the Trump administration. Let's just see about. I'm not familiar with this one. Nonprofit, nonpartisan, public interest, private property rights. Is this like a libertarian outfit? I genuinely don't know. Yeah, it's a right-wing Illinois Policy Institute. Let's just take a look. What is the Illinois Policy Institute? Yeah, free market, nonprofit think tank. Founder Glenn Blankenship. Or Greg Blankenship, rather. John Tillman. Who's John Tillman? Yeah, like, okay. This is literally okay, yeah, we're talking like these are far right organizations. These are far right organizations that typically and historically have pushed anti-abortion, that have pushed anti-COVID-19 policies, that have pushed different like conservative ideologies, right? Like these are not leftist orgs suing the Donald Trump administration. These are conservative think tanks that are funded by conservative billionaires going after Donald Trump. This is, by the way, like this is Republican on Republican violence. This is, if you want to interpret it in a more narrativized structure, this is, you know, the first semblances of a rejection of Trump's fascistic tendencies by more mainstream Republicans who just want to grill, chill, and make line go up. You know, they do not, the line is not going up. Donald Trump has not been benefiting businesses. If you're a billionaire, even if you bent the knee, you haven't really benefited all that much now. Yeah, these are what he referred to as the panicans. Yeah, it really is a... Oh, God. Did I not add the let them fight? I thought I did. Oh, no.
Let them fight.
There we go, I did. Nice. Nailed it. Yeah, these people are nuts. But even more interestingly, I want to turn your attention here to one piece from the Wall Street Journal that really caught my eye. Okay? Let me just bring this up here.
You are looking 90s anti-Linux today. I'm NGL. I subscribed because I was like, who's this smart pretty redhead lol? Anyways, thanks for discussing these issues with humor and candor.
Well, Nori Hicks, thank you for the $10 super chat and for that incredible, incredible compliment. Annie Lennox. Yes, please. Thank you so much. And welcome to the community. Love to see new faces here. So we've got this next article, and this is what I want to end this entire tariff segment on. The amount of chaos that Donald Trump has injected into the market and injected into, like, not just the US market, but the global market. I know that a lot of people's eyes glaze over. We're not getting into the intricacies here. Just the amount of unpredictability is completely unacceptable to basically any kind of business interest from big to small. Like, a huge part of doing business is being able to count on, certain stability, or at least islands of stability. All of that has been thrown into question. And I think it says something that someone who has written for the Wall Street Journal for 33 years, as someone who covers business, put out an op-ed for their Business World section that reads thusly: Donald Trump wants to be impeached again. It's already in the cards thanks to his ill-founded trade war, no matter how that war plays out. And this kind of dovetails nicely with one of the things that I put out there just a handful of days ago, which is that if you have the votes for Congress to reclaim tariff authority, you also have the votes to impeach Donald Trump, and not just impeach him, but also convict him. This article only exists if, like, the Wall Street Journal and, like, people with money who read the Wall Street Journal are already thinking this. Okay? This week, the system worked. Donald Trump blinked. The unwinding is still just beginning. It will be painful and tumultuous. A grief-filled fight lies ahead over whether his trade actions have even been legal and constitutional. Many slips between cup and lip are to be expected. China and the US are rushing towards an unplanned total stoppage of trade. The bond market is signaling a potentially dangerous combustion with America's unaddressed fiscal sustainability challenge. The courts will come into play, albeit cautiously, if judges and justices believe US-Canada negotiations by then are pointing towards an exit ramp, justifying a bit of presidential leeway for national security reasons. A future Trump impeachment seems all but guaranteed by last Wednesday morning. It seems only slightly less likely now. It may even be desirable to restore America's standing with creditors and trade partners. Like, can we just, like, hang on this for a minute? It may even be desirable to restore America's standing with creditors and trade partners. And in not, this isn't like a, how do I put this? This isn't even like a hemming and hawing. This is like a, yeah, you guys have totally undermined, like, the credibility of the American state to the point where you need to get a new president, even if it's just like a slightly less bad Republican. You need to get that, because otherwise no one on this planet can trust you. So, yeah. And yes, Droning Goddess, any Republican can call for a vote of no confidence in Mike Johnson. So, very interesting stuff. As sacrilegious as the comparison may seem, Mr. Trump faced a problem Abraham Lincoln and Franklin Roosevelt solved by dying once their great achievements were in the bag. Mr. Trump's great achievement was his 2024 re-election, a rebuke to the injustices and insults meted out to him by his fans since 2016, some of which were even real. However, no consensus or even significant coalition exists for trying to force into existence a new American golden age with tariffs, which anyway is like asking a chicken to give birth to a lioness. He invented this mission out of his own confused intuition, which honestly is true. That's true. That is an accurate analysis of the situation right now. He has goofed too close to the sun, and now his Icarus wings, built by morons, are starting to fall out of the sky. Probably because he gutted the FAA.
To quote the awesome Representative Rashida Tlaib from Trump's first term, impeach the mother fair.
Yep. Let's see here. Out of the outcomes still in the cards, the least bad now may be the Trump proposal, on which I bestowed a left-handed Cupid doll last year. What the fuck? A universal. I do. No, I don't. I don't want to know. I don't want to know, and I don't care. A universal, non-discriminatory 10% import tax. It faintly resembles a consumption tax or carbon tax. If Mr. Trump can then pivot away from his trade war dysphoria to domestic tax and regulatory reform, his presidency may yet be saved. Which, like, yeah, this is the kind of thing, a 10% import tax across the board, which would be inflationary and would be a tax disproportionately on the working class in America, is the thing that all of these conservatives salivate over. This is what conservatives, when they elected Trump, that is what they wanted. The issue is Donald Trump does not understand how tariffs work, does not really care to learn, and is instead in a dick measuring contest with literally the entire world. If we impeach Trump and win, then we will have to deal with a pissed JD Vance. I don't care though. Like a pissed JD Vance. Do I not have the? I closed the tab already. Damn it! I wanted to play the video of him dropping the trophy again. He's got no riz. He does not have the same kind of support that Donald Trump does. You know, He just is incapable of leading the coalition like Trump does. And you know what? After we have the pressure to remove Donald Trump, we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop criticizing JD Vance. We are going to be mobilized already. But let's keep going here. If Mr. Trump can then pivot away from his trade war dysphoria, blah, blah, blah. With floods devastating his northern counties, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has been making TV rounds lately. Americans see an attractive, insane Democrat who might have sought and won his party's nomination in the completely different 2024 election we could have had. November's outcome, remember, tells us only how voters reacted to a binary choice. In fact, polls show most voters thought it was a lousy choice, hence history's most risible irony. Nobody stands to benefit more now than Joe Biden if the Trump presidency can avoid complete disaster. At least posterity would then have less incentive to dwell on how Joe and Jill threw America under a bus with their craving for a second term. Historian and author Niall Ferguson this week chose the adjective full retard. Wow. Really? For Trump trade policy. I go with neurotic for the words wider applicable. Sorry, I just wasn't expecting to see this phrase in the Wall Street Journal. Holy moly. I go with neurotic for the words wider applicability to any leader who, lacking a clear beat on his times, fabricates a gratuitously ambitious mission to meet his misguided sense of importance. Damn. Yeah, I better not see you guys posting that in chat, okay? That was a one time. The phenomenon is more intrinsic to politics than we might think. Vladimir Putin is a current example. Bill and Hillary Clinton's first term grand healthcare scheme nearly broke his presidency. What if Roosevelt had been gifted with 83 rather than 63 years? So many elites were subsisting on his coattails practically from birth. The systemic pressure to invent an agenda to justify a fifth, sixth, seventh term would have been immense. Notice how even the desultory Biden crowd still shapes our country's trajectory with their clinging to office. Ugh. The prose in this is not great. Nobody in Mr. Trump's orbit actually shares his belief in the magical efficacy of tariffs because it makes sense only in a world that doesn't exist, where other countries don't retaliate. That's why you can expect his aides soon to be hinting so vos that his China tariffs are really about leverage to pressure Beijing to help out Ukraine. The founders never anticipated today's instantly responsive trillion-dollar financial markets, and yet these markets neatly adumbrate the founders' scheme of checks and balances, also known as feedback. Mr. Trump, still sane enough to appreciate what's good for Mr. Trump, listened this week to their feedback. May he continue to do so. The left's picture of a proto-dictator never really meshed with with his nature of a flighty glutton for attention. What the fuck do you think a dictator is? They literally have all of the attention. But okay, Mr. Trump's policies aren't poll-based or policy-based. They aren't strategic. They are ratings-based. From the moment he appeared in 2015, he was a democratic accident waiting to happen for exactly this reason. The wild card that can't be foreseen was the lying cowardice and self-discrediting of his opponents, especially the press, which afforded him an improbable legitimacy he never would have obtained otherwise. Might something valuable yet come from this accident? As Zhu Enlai was misunderstood to say about the French Revolution, it's too soon to tell. Ask me in 150 years. So, like, I don't know. Like, the article thesis kind of fell apart towards the end, in my opinion. But I think the gist of it is still, like, it's still good. You know, like, it's still, like, yeah, this man does not have a plan. He's just chasing cars to chase cars. You know, this man does not understand what he's playing with. He he's too unpredictable for world powers, and that is very possibly a pathway for the Republicans in office to begin to coalesce around. And I'm not gonna hold my breath for that. But understand that as pressure mounts publicly, and as you know, you're seeing like AOC draw 20,000 people in the heart of a red state, you know, in all of these rural areas that they're going, that's causing Republicans to take notice. They're also noticing in the special elections that those elections swung by like 15 points. They're also taking note that the entire world financial markets are now on fire for no reason. And their donors are calling them. Their voters are calling them. Not just like lefties like us calling them 24/7. But they're freaking out. They're going to continue freaking out. And they did not vote for a doubling in the price of eggs, which is, by the way, something that people are seeing as part of these like tariffs. You know, they didn't sign up for losing their job because suddenly the part to make the machine work for their job, you know, quintupled in price due to tariffs.
I've been assured that this fever will break by the Dems since 1992.
It's true. I don't think that the fever is going to break because they finally became sane. I think the fever is going to break precisely for the same reason that an article like this gets published in the Wall Street Journal. And that is because Donald Trump is fucking with the money. You know, you can be a mafioso if you have the money. But if you're fucking with the money, and everyone below you knows that you're fucking with the money, eventually someone takes you out of your job. Even if you're the head of the family. So like, that's my argument. I don't think that the fever is going to break. I think it is going to be too tumultuous. And there are going to be people who do a cost-benefit analysis and think now is the time to stab Caesar in the back. You know? I do think that these protests, like what we saw on April 5th, are only going to grow. More and more people are going to be mobilized. And that is what I have my faith in. My faith is in the tumbling international markets and in the organization and mobilization of the American people. Full stop. And with that, I guess we'll move on.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your